Watkins Glen International, one of the most famous road courses inside North America. It's the spiritual home of road racing in the US, with crowds flocking to see top-level racing since the 1940s. Virtually all major road racing classes in North America have competed here at one stage or another, from Formula One through to Can-Am and the NASCAR Cup Series. IMSA also races here as well, with the Salen's 6 Hours of the Glen. Commonly known as the Glen, the facility is now owned by NASCAR and has been host to Cup Series races every year since 1986. A variety of racing events and several festivals also take place across the year at this historic venue. We're here at the the virtual version of Watkins Glen International tonight. My name is Alex Andersen. I am joined in the commentary booth by Tom Dillon with Adam Thompson in our virtual production truck for Race 7 of Season 1 of the Cross Touring Cup. And as we are already around 5.5 minutes into qualifying, Tom, why don't you take us on board to get a lap around this, I believe, about 3.5 mile racetrack?
Well, turn 1, third gear for Robert Schwenkler. Just dipping the car in and then opening it up down this relatively long flat section into the left, keeping the foot to the accelerator. Weirdly uses a little bit of curb on the left hand side there. Does Rob. That can sometimes upset the car ever so slightly, lose you a little bit of momentum, but clearly not doing too badly for Schwenkler now. Look to the braking board on the left hand side, brakes really late, uses all the curb on the apex and just keeps absolutely hammering them throughout the corner into the next right-hander. Long and winding, dips the car in early before getting the car back and set up ready for the rest of this circuit. Late apex here, third gear, dips it in very late indeed, just about misses the apex there actually, does Schwenkler. Not the greatest of racing lines, but won't lose him too much time. This time again looks like it's going to be a fairly late apex as well. Make sure that the car is set up nicely heading into sector 3 now. Right-hander coming up down into it. Looks for the just before the 100 board. Third gear. Again, dipping it in very early there, rather than the late apexes we've seen ever so slightly earlier on. Now set the car up once again. Third gear, pretty early in, is Robert Schwenkler. And now running back towards the end of this circuit. Very fast left-hander here. Doesn't shift down a gear. Just a slight lift of the throttle. Uses the curb on the exit to get himself rotated. And now the final corner. This can be so awkward sometimes with that wall on the left-hand side. But Schwenkler navigates it perfectly, Alex. And he's going to cross the line to take what looks like pole position in the GT4 category.
And here's Kerry Cantera going into turn number 1. Here you'll notice the difference between GT3s and GT4s up through the S's. Full throttle for both cars. However, the GT3s being a lot more powerful, they're going to get a much higher top speed down this straight as Kerry rockets towards the bus stop. And just now a long straight, pretty good drafting opportunities for everybody in the field, especially with how close the GT3 class is right now. Onto the brakes for the bus stop. All the curb almost touches the guardrail, cleanly through the bus stop. Nice narrow line. Again, it keeps it on the inside curb through the carousel. Out wide as he enters the boot. Up into 5th gear, then back down into what I believe will be 3rd. Gets the car turned quite nicely, a little bit wide there, gets onto the grass a bit. You'll notice just these cars, they push a lot more in these corners. They're a lot quicker on the accelerator, so these guys are going to have to try and manage these cars a lot more. Into 2nd gear, back up into 3rd for the heel of the boot, or heading towards the heel of the boot. And as he passes the braking markers, onto the brakes once more, down into 2nd gear. And Kerry Cantera exiting the boot section, heading towards an off-camber corner to bring himself back onto the normal layout. Eats the curb, brings it out wide, up into 3rd gear, and then up into 4th, back into these two left-handers to finish off the lap. You'll notice how that's probably going to be an off track, I would say, but takes it full throttle down into third gear for the final corner and across the line. We'll have to see if that improved his lap time at all. I don't believe it did, but that's a very big difference between the GT3s and GT4s. You can just see how much more speed these GT3 cars have.
A scruffy lap, all things considered, from Kerry Cantera. Not one that he would have been hoping in his quest for pole position here. I think he'll be going again on this occasion. We're just coming up to the end of the qualifying session, so perhaps one more shot in the revolver for Kerry Cantera. He's going to have to be rather quick with it, just understeer through a few of the corners, plaguing that Mercedes, the 333. And it just cost him a real shot. He's definitely going for it on this occasion, though. Can he get 1.4 seconds of an improvement, however, to the ever so dominant Edoardo Pecorini in the 47?
Well, he is a bit up on his practice time. His fastest time in practice was a 1:44.7, so he has improved a little bit by well over a second. However, I don't think it'll be enough to catch Edoardo Pecorini. Here's Eddie Aguiar driving the number 31 car, only 2.5 tenths off of Kerry Cantera, and it's a pretty close fight behind him. Bobby Ross only 1/100th off him back there, currently in P4 overall. Then it's a pretty few and far between battle for GT4 cars right now, as Schwenkler currently leads by the better part of a second there. Grant Turner 2 tenths off him, and then Rob Neville and Paul Mikulajczyk, almost the same story.
There's 5 minutes to go in the qualifying session then. Still plenty of opportunity for these guys to set a lap. I think I was mistaken on the previous lap. I had it in my head that it was a 10-minute qualifying session. It is in fact 15. So really nice jeers in my ear as well from our producer there, Alex. And I've got my mind in AMS mode, clearly, which is tomorrow night. I know we're supposed to be plugging the streams here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Schwenkler went purple in the last mini sector once again, unable to improve too much, however. And he's got one more lap ahead of him in that McLaren. Mikulajczyk behind him has got 7 tenths of a second to improve in order to chase after Schwenkler in the 235. And I think it's going to be a tall order for him.
I don't know. We know how fast that 01 McLaren is. The only thing that's plagued him throughout the season, Paul Mikulajczyk, has been mistakes. There have been several unfortunate mistakes from himself that have just set him back miles, and he just hasn't been able to get the results that he deserves. However, going into this race, we only have a couple of races left in the season here for the Cross Touring Cup, but it is a pretty tight championship, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the GT4 cars, only 9 points separate the top 4 in the standings, and Schwenkler last week, he retook the championship lead for class, but it's by the slightest of margins. Only 3 points separate first and second for GT4s.
Yes, it's very close, as you mentioned, in that GT4 category. Schwenkler has missed a couple of rounds, and it's played against him, really. He's only picked up 2 races this season in terms of race wins, and that's going to be frustrating for Robert Schwenkler, who, by the way, has pulled over to the side of the road. That is his qualifying session over with almost certainly. But yes, Robert Schwenkler, despite the fact he's been so good in that GT4 category so far this season, he's only been able to pick up those 2 victories. Of course, Adam Thompson, the main rival we thought for the championship for Robert Schwenkler, not quite able to continue there. So if we take Adam's 2 race wins, Alex with 1 race win at least, because I know Robert finished second there, then technically speaking, it's 3 race wins, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, so here we see Grant Turner. He's heading through the carousel right now. This Porsche has a boxer engine, quite different from the rest of the field in the fact that the pistons go side to side instead of up and down. So pretty different engine, pretty similar cars as Grant Turner trying to improve his time to yellow sectors so far as he enters the toe of the boot. Onto the brakes, he'll bring it up the hill. Very easy to understeer in this corner. Grant was doing a great job to manage that here. It looks like, I'm not sure if he'll be able to improve, as it looks like his lap time, he might have stalled somewhere. as it's currently saying he's on a 1:53 second lap, which would not cut it, and I don't think any race, unless somebody were not to qualify. So through the off-camber corner, entering back onto the NASCAR circuit here at Watkins Glen. This will be the final lap completed in the qualifying session, but I don't think Grant Turner, even though he improves on his personal best Sector 4, don't think this is going to work out for him.
Perhaps not. 154.6 is the time to beat for Grant Turner. Rounds the final corner now as he heads to the line. Is it going to be an improvement at the death for Grant Turner? It looks like it will not be.
Yeah, 2 minute and 26 second lap there, as he was not able to get an adequate time for that. Gonna slow it down on the exit of turn 1, and I assume bring it to a stop or just roll it up the hills. But that is qualifying done and dusted for these guys. So we'll see if we can bring up your starting grid. Eduardo Pecorini sits on pole with a staggering lead of 1:42.5 from him. Kerry Cantero 1.4 seconds back. Eddie Aguiar starts pretty close to Kerry Cantero in P3. That's Bobby Ross in P4, right on the back bumper of Aguiar. Chad Seep up there as well in P5. Robert Schwenkler on pole for the GT4 class. However, Paul Mikolajczyk is going to be riding his back bumper the entire race there in 7th overall. James Kerr in P8 overall. P3 in class. Grant Turner in P9. Rob Neville in P10. And then Jerry DiPiero, Jimmy Howard, 11th and 12th. Looks like they did not set a qualifying time. And then Glenn McTavish is back there as well in P13. So a lot of GT4 drivers tonight. Do you think that could prove for competition to maybe interrupt Robert Schwenkler or Paul Mikolajczyk?
I often find a little bit counterintuitively, actually, Alex, that when you have races that have got less drivers in them, sometimes they can be the more competitive and more entertaining races, purely because you've just got all of the very dedicated drivers who are very fast, very capable up at the top, and all of the sort of, not so much dead weight, but the drivers that perhaps are just there and normally back markers. They don't tend to turn up when you've got such low attendances. It tends to be the people who are on top regularly who are there, and that makes the that makes it very competitive, very interesting to watch.
I'm struggling to hold it a little bit together. I think our producer, we might need to go unplug his microphone so that way we can focus a little bit more up here. Hey, Adam. But the pace car in the field rolls off the grid. We have a full pace lap to get underway here tonight. And it looks like Robert Schwenkler, I'm not sure.
He's disconnected.
If it looks like, according to the iRacing chat, he has throughput. So he will not be with us for the start of the race unless he can get back in time. I don't think he'll be with us at all, but that is very unfortunate. That really shakes up the GT4 field tonight.
He's had those issues throughout the season, hasn't he, poor old Robin, with 3 rounds to go. One of those rounds being the Le Mans 1 hour and 30 minutes at the last race of the season. He really did need at least to get the points ticking over tonight, because if he can't bring the fight to Paul Mikolajczyk, it may all be an uphill battle from here.
Yeah, we'll have to see how he manages that. It looks like he has connected back into the session, so he's trying to get back in at the moment. Looks like he is fully in. Maybe we can swap to him, see if he's currently sitting in the pits in his car. So, looks like, no, he's still not in the pits, not in his car yet. Swaps to the scenic whenever we try and look at him. So he's not in his car just yet. But we'll have to see what he tries to do here. He's loading back into the session, obviously, so he's trying to make the start of the race. But starting from the pits, he's going to have a very long uphill battle to try and claw himself back to the lead.
He'll at least be on the lead lap, as I understand it, which is the most important thing here for Robert Schwenkler. And that sort of softens the blow to not connecting in time for the race start. He'll actually be on the lead lap, so he'll be able to catch up. He's just got to now put trust in the fact that he's got incredible pace and think that he can get back up and at least finish into in second position here, because I don't think Paul Mikolajczyk is going to be catchable. It's got to be damage limitation.
Yeah, as the GT3 field starts to accelerate from the GT4 class, we are all set to get racing here tonight. Tom, before they bring themselves back onto the main part of the circuit, maybe some predictions here tonight, maybe thinking what people are going to do here.
Well, no prizes for predicting Edoardo Pecorini going on to win this race. 1.4 seconds ahead of second position Kerry Cantera in that class in qualifying. If Edoardo Pecorini doesn't win today, I can guarantee either Kerry Cantera has pulled out a masterclass or Edoardo Pecorini has made a mistake. He has looked so dominant so far this season as well. Almost a hand on the championship trophy with the 4 wins from the 7 races, I believe, we've had so far. Edoardo Pecorini surely favourite for this one.
Yeah, as the iRacing safety car is going to dive into the safety of the pit lane. And now as the GT3 field rounds off the final corner, it's all up to the drivers as they approach the restart zone. And we wait for the flag stand. The green flag is out and we're racing here from Watkins Glen. It's a great start from Kerry Cantera on the outside. Gets his nose out front before these guys get to turn 1. There's Robert Schwenkler. He'll be able to try and make an attempt. Here's Paul Mikulicek and Grant Turner side by side for the GT4 lead. And it looks like Kerry Cantera took the lead for the GT3 class. Bobby Ross got around Pecorini as well. So Grant Turner takes the lead from Paul Mikulicek. And there's a new leader. Never thought I'd say that. Over Edoardo Pecorini, Kerry Cantera leads this race right now over Bobby Ross in second. So a very quick pass. Very quick attempt for Cantera to get the lead. Paul Mikulicek gonna have to try and get his lead back from that Porsche. There's also another McLaren to worry about. James Keir sticking right with these guys as they head through the bus stop for the first time tonight. Already several lead changes, both in both GT3 and GT4s for the lead.
Edoardo Pecorini not having the greatest of starts, whether it is mistake, whether it is just being overtaken, I'm not too sure. But Kerry Cantera with an opportunity now. Edoardo Pecorini with it all to do, but Cantera under pressure from Bobby Ross. It looks like the Mercedes going to the inside, going to try and make this move up into first position through one of the hairpins at this circuit. Bobby Ross is able to force his opponent off the circuit, or gets forced off the circuit, I should say, and manages to squeeze through in that Mercedes, but Cantera back down the inside into one of the fastest corners on the circuit, Alex. The left-hander, Kerry Cantera to the inside, gets that position back.
Almost full throttle through that corner. Bobby Ross trying to get the switch back as they come to complete their first lap here tonight. Kerry Cantera is going to lead the first lap. Bobby Ross right on his back bumper. The entire GT3 field still under a blanket for the lead of this race. GT4s are no less... I completely lost my train of thought. No less exciting as Paul Mikulicek tries to get his lead back from Grant Turner. James Keir's right behind him too. Looks like Mikulicek blinking a little bit there in that McLaren. In and out of existence. Looks like taking a short vacation to the shadow realm every couple of seconds. There he is again off turn number 1. He'll get a nice run down the backstretch. I think Bobby Ross tried to make a move on Kerry Cantera there again through the bus stop. Couldn't get anything done. Cantera still leads this race, but the GT4 battle still just warming up as they head down the backstretch for the second time. There's a car around. Somebody just flew over the guardrail. And that is a massive, massive wreck. You can see an Aston Martin and a McLaren stuck back there. I'm at 99% sure somebody just flipped out of the track. That was horrible.
So here it is, Alex. Just a little bit too forward on a tape here. Going to have to roll it back a little bit. You can see the spinning and spinning and spinning. This is still not quite the moment. Here we go. We'll rewind the tape for you. It was the Porsche that was collected by the spinning 88, and then the Porsche just, well, turning into an absolute rocket ship, even more so than normal in that Porsche this time. Lots of vertical velocity, isn't intended for a race car, ever. Here's the route of the course. It's the number 88, gets tapped by the BMW, and it's just around, doesn't hold the brakes, from my reckoning there, and I'm not too sure whether that's he hasn't held the brakes or the ABS has just proved a little bit too powerful there, and it spat him back across the circuit without locking the brakes.
I know this is iRacing, but I really hope that Rob Neville, I believe that was in that Porsche, is okay. Flips straight out of the circuit and over the guardrail. That was a terrifying crash, but terrific racing going on in GT3s. Here's Eduardo Pecorini trying to get second place back. Bobby Ross going to relent that position. Now Pecorini sets his sights on getting his lead back into the grass through the bus stop. That is most certainly going to be a slowdown penalty that Pecorini will eventually have to serve as they head into the bus stop. Or excuse me, not the bus stop, but the boot. There's Pecorini serving a slowdown by going wide. That's how Bobby Ross to get back through, and that's going to allow Kerry Cantera just a little bit more breathing room. And actually, while we were focused on that, Paul Mikolajczyk is taking the lead in the GT4 class.
Back to normal programming for Paul Mikolajczyk. It looks like Robert Schwenkler is back into this race. He's in 4th position at the moment. 5 seconds of an interval up to Di Piero. Here are the lap times, as we'll see those in a moment. See if Robert Schwenkler has got the pace over his rivals. 1:58.1 is his fastest lap. 3 seconds off the pace, but of course he's had to battle with the traffic and making sure he gets through that. Of course, he's also been helped by a major incident in the GT4 category, but encouraging signs at the moment for Schwenkler. He's just got to set his sights at about 8 seconds to the lead of the race. Meanwhile, Pecorini finally gets through on Bobby Ross. I think Bobby Ross tried to attack Pecorini and it was held off in the end. Here is that yellow 47 BMW. Has been driving so well this season, Eduardo Pecorini. As I said, 4 race wins so far, a couple of Grand Slams in there as well. But at the moment, doing his greatest to lose the race in this first stint and trying to just recollect everything and get back up to the lead at 1 second, though, is not the easiest of gaps to pull back.
Yeah, and even if Pecorini can't close that gap, which we 100% know he has the speed to do, Kerry Cantera is not going to give up that lead that easily, even though he knows how much faster Eduardo Pecorini is. But Kerry Cantera is not just going to hand him the lead of this race. He is 100% going to fight for it, and that's what we're going to have to look out for. And look at these sector times between Robert Schwenkler and Jerry Di Piero. Schwenkler, green in all 5 sectors, sets faster sector times in all the sectors, and pretty much over 2/10 in every sector in terms of lap time. So Schwenkler most certainly has the pace. The only thing is, can he keep it up in time to maybe catch up to Paul Mikolajczyk and challenge for the lead? Because that's a very big gap, but it's a very small gap for the lead of the GT3 class as Eduardo Pecorini looks to take his lead back.
Here we go. Going to try it. Eduardo Pecorini just has to get a good exit out of the final corner. Looks like he's done exactly that. I don't think the toe is going to be quite so effective for him, though, on this occasion. Kerry Cantera just ever so slightly gaining, actually, in the end. Maybe not as good of an exit as we first thought. Look at how much more curb Pecorini is using compared to Cantera, allowing him to pull a little bit closer to that number 333 car, just in the lead of the race. Now Pecorini with the slipstream going to think about a move to the inside of the chicane. Surely, can he find the overspeed? Eduardo Pecorini down the inside. It's going to have to be a last of the late breakers move. Just about holds on to it, Kerry Cantera.
Yeah, but that is a hard charging BMW. And you know all the jokes about how big these BMWs are, and it is most certainly filling up Kerry's rearview mirror. However, Bobby Ross right on the back bumper, watching this battle unfold right before his eyes. Most certainly, I would assume, thinking about a move to try and get back around Eduardo Pecorini, presumably just to try and put himself in a better spot, as this is still a very close 4-car battle for the GT3 class lead, as Eddie Aguiar back there as well has really been an onlooker this whole time.
He has, just biding his time, waiting for the inevitable to happen, and one of these making a mistake from this battle. There you go, very wide. Not quite the mistake that Eddie Aguiar is looking for here, but he sniffs a chance at a podium here, surely. Surely one of them in the next 45 minutes or so, or I suppose 35 minutes as we approach the 10-minute mark. Surely one of them is going to make a slight mistake and at least give him a look in. at the moment just driving sensibly is Eddie Aguiar. And now Pecorini to the inside. He's going to try and make the move at this occasion, Alex.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Kerry Cantera still has his nose out front when they get to turn number 1. Looks like Pecorini clears him as they head up towards the S's. However, Cantera's going to have that draft run. We'll have to see if he can try and make a move back as they head up the hill for the 6th time tonight. Kerry Cantera's got a strong run through the S's with that draft. We'll have to see what he chooses to do with it. He surely can't push. There he goes to the outside, trying to get that pass done. Bobby decides to stick with Pecorini into the bus stop. Almost contact between the two Mercedes. Pecorini into the grass once more on the exit of the bus stop. Don't think that'll be a slowdown that time as Pecorini now once again clear into the lead.
Absolutely superb from Pecorini. He made that move very sensibly down into turn 1 and then didn't give Kerry Cantera a word in edgeways heading into the chicane. Now Cantera's got Bobby Ross for company. The silver Mercedes to the outside, going to try and make that move. And oh, there's the mistake that I was talking about. And Bobby Ross just loses a little bit of time. Eddie Aguiar not quite able to get back past him though. And that will be frustrating for Aguiar.
And this, however, is still a very close battle between pretty much the entire GT3 field. I mean, Chad Seep is back there in the picture as well. And these guys still very close. Kerry very loose coming back onto the NASCAR layout through the final 2 corners. Bobby Ross still on the back bumper of that 333 car. Actually, I just realized 3 cars with a 3 in their numbers, all through 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. As here's on board of Bobby Ross, right on the back bumper, not really right on the back bumper, but chasing the back bumper of Kerry Cantera through the first corner, a little bit wide off the curb as they head up towards the S's. Bobby's going to get a nice draft run as you can see the Porsche looming in the rear view camera of the in-car of that Mercedes. There it is once again as he heads up to the bus stop. That Porsche just looming in the camera of that Mercedes, but Ross focused all on the windshield right now. He's got a good run into the bus stop. I don't think he can do anything with it. He chooses to stay in line for now. Kerry Cantera still holds on to 2nd.
Cantera weathering a huge storm of pressure at the moment in the race, and he's not quite been able to catch up to Eduardo Pecorini. He's checked out as the number 47. It took him a moment, Pecorini, to get back to the lead of this race, but now it looks like he's very much well and truly gone. And I think that's going to frustrate Cantera, who has ever got Bobby Ross for company. Robert Schwenkler, 1.9 seconds to Di Piero just ahead. That will get him back onto the podium at least in the GT4 category after starting from the pit lane, having so many issues early on in this race. I don't believe he actually ever was off the lead lap, just about got going towards the end there. It's still about 6 seconds when all is said and done to Paul Mikolajczyk ahead, which surely has got to be his target here. I know he said 2nd position, but you've always got to be driving as if you're going for the win, I'd suggest, particularly when you're in a championship battle as Schwenkler is.
Yeah, he can't give up too many points here tonight, as it is a very close battle on points for the GT4 class. So Robert Schwenkler needs to make up all he can, as it looks like we're going to have the points coming up for all at home. Here they are. You can see the gap. Robert Schwenkler only 3 points ahead of Paul Mikolajczyk, who is currently leading this race. Then Grant Turner, James Keir, and Michael Dalling right behind them. Only 3 points between those guys, and pretty much from 1st through 5th, only 10 points in total. Here's the GT3 points, which Eduardo Pecorini, a demanding lead with 161. Then Alec Bergstrom, Josh Klog right behind him aren't here tonight though, but who is Bobby Ross and Kerry Cantera, and they're currently still locked in a fierce battle for 2nd. Actually, it looked like Bobby Ross got around Kerry Cantera here.
He has. Here's the replay of the move. Bobby Ross to the outside, down into turn 1, brakes as late as he can and just manages to find a little bit of grip on that outside line, goes all the way onto the NASCAR line, heading on the exit of turn 1, and just got his nose in front, and that was all that he needed. But now Aguiar trying to have his turn on Kerry Cantera. Cantera doing very well to just edge him out down into that right-hander, but more squirrely from Cantera to the outside once more goes Aguiar. Can't find a way around, but he is definitely pressing is Eddie Aguiar. And at the moment, Kerry Cantera doesn't really have the answers. He is plummeting down the order.
Yeah, and this battle is bringing Chad Seat back into the picture as well, who is currently only 5/10 off of Eddie Aguiar now. He's now in this battle in his Mercedes, so it's a Mercedes, pretty much a Mercedes sandwich for that Porsche there of Eddie Aguiar there in P4. Bobby Ross getting clear of the field, now trying to start the long drive to see if he can make up any time to get back up to Edoardo Pecorini. You think he might be able to do it, but Robert Schwenkler also right on the back bumper of Jerry DiPiero now to get back onto the podium for the GT4 class.
What a drive so far from Robert Schwenkler. It's definitely got the making of something that we'll look back at the end of the season if he does go on to hold on to that 3-point advantage. Robert Schwenkler will look back at this as one of those drives that perhaps sealed him that championship. To the inside, he thinks about a move, can't quite find the space there. But I always talk about on these broadcasts about how when you are battling someone as actually Schwenkler's let through here by DiPiero, which I think is sensible, maybe not the most entertaining for the viewers, but sensible from DiPiero. Lets Robert Schwenkler through, and now it's 5.6 seconds to Grant Turner ahead. And now have a look at Cantera, all the way down in 5th position. Something has happened to the 333.
Yeah, we'll see if we can look for it to show you what happened, but so far Cantera has just plummeted down the order, and he's not making up any time at that. But who is making up time, surprisingly, is Bobby Ross. And I don't know if it's because of lap traffic. I don't think it's because of lap traffic, but at the start of this lap, this gap between these two cars was 1.6 seconds. But then it went to 1 second. But Bobby Ross, that lap, is into the pits here for the first time tonight. This will confirm it as a 2-stop race for the GT3 cars, I believe, and it should be a 2-stop race for the GT4s as well, as they will have to pit at around minute 17 to 19, around 9 to 10 laps on a tank for those guys. So they will have to pit soon. So it could be 3 stops for them with a little splash and dash at the end for the GT4 cars. I'm hearing a little bit of a joke from our producer. I apologize for my mispronunciation there.
30% fuel. That's the maximum capacity of these tanks here. Usually you can go an hour at Watkins Glen on GT3 in GT3 cars. However, of course, with a 30% tank, that means about 18 minutes expecting here, which is pretty concurrent with what we've seen from the guys at the moment. Edoardo Pecorini in the lead of the race, of course, yet to take a pit stop. However, I think he'll be looking to extend this stint. If he can get to 20 minutes, let's say, he can just extend by that extra lap, which is no mean feat at all, then he's in good standing here to try and avoid having to take a splash at the end. However, I think that's going to be a little bit difficult. This is traffic as well, isn't it, Alex, for Edoardo Pecorini. Could help Bobby Ross gain that couple of seconds that he may have needed to get ahead of Pecorini. They always say the old cliche is Pecorini into the pits, so won't be able to extend that long at all. I think that is condemning them to a 3-stop, and it's going to be all about where Bobby Ross is right now.
Yeah, we're trying to find him here. Here's the pit lane camera, so you'll be able to see when Bobby Ross rounds that final corner. According to the track map, they're heading back on. They're heading out of the boot right now and into the final couple of corners. Pecorini just coming to a stop in his pit stall. So we'll have to see where Bobby Ross comes off the final corner. There you see the Mercedes off the final corner. You see some of the GT4 cars heading off pit road. Grant Turner takes the GT4 lead from that, actually. Pecorini just out of his pit stall now, and I think Bobby Ross has taken the lead back after the pit stops. Eddie Aguiar has taken a spot as well. That's going to move Pecorini back down into P3, and there wasn't only one shakeup in the GT3s. Grant Turner has now taken the lead in the GT4 car, so big shakeups throughout the field.
Bobby Ross absolutely perfect. Had a little bit of luck involved, of course, but that extending and that trying to just get that gap down. Oh no! Oh, there's Paul Mikolajczyk, and that is colossal in the context of the race, because if Robert Schwenkler is 6.6 seconds behind, is trying to attack his championship rival, all of that traffic that Mikolajczyk has now plunged himself into, and all of that time that has been lost to Grant Turner ahead, that is playing into the hands of Robert Schwenkler.
We do a little bit of lawn mowing in the Glenn's Hot Wings McLaren there through the exit of the bus stop, so I think probably just trying to get out of the way of the GT3 cars with Paul Mikolajczyk there, and just figured the best way to do that in the bus stop was just send it through the grass and hope for the best, and seemed to work out. Bobby Ross didn't lose too much time, but the battle for the lead of the GT3 class once again is going to start to heat up, as Bobby Ross is going to have to hold off both Eduardo Pecorini and Eddie Aguiar for the lead of this race.
Try what he can, Bobby Ross. Eddie Aguiar, of course, also getting past Eduardo Pecorini. As you mentioned, that leaves Pecorini with it all to do. The complexion of the top three has changed with Kerry Cantera's absence from the second stage of this race. Of course, expecting that three-stop strategy now. The question will be, are they going to think about taking half-side tyres towards the end? Maybe. Here are the lap times between Mikolajczyk and Schwenkler back in the GT4 category. Schwenkler at the moment is 0.2 of a second faster than Mikolajczyk. I believe, I can't tell whether that is talking about specifically in that mini sector 5 or throughout the lap, but the point is that Schwenkler is gaining ever so slightly. He's got to, that's through the mini sector, there we go, I've confirmed that in my ear. And I think that's what Schwenkler's just got to do here. Just got to focus on taking out a couple of attempts every single lap. Remember about the traffic.
And that's exactly what he's continuing to do through the bus stop. There's the lap times off overall. Schwenkler really closing that gap down, but the gap is already closed for the GT3 class lead, as Eddie Aguiar still right on the back bumper of Bobby Ross, and Eduardo Pecorini is once again hungry to take the lead back, tries to dive to the inside of that Porsche into this hairpin, the heel of the boot. Bobby Ross really wide there. That was a bit of an unorthodox line, not one of the major ones that I've seen, but out of the boot comes Bobby Ross with Eduardo Pecorini hot on his heels. There's no doubt in my mind that I think Pecorini could take back the lead of this race, but that Mercedes has proven to be very fast here in this race.
The Mercedes is so fast indeed. I think Bobby Ross has got a real opportunity to win this race, but it's not going to be easy for him. 24 minutes, 23 minutes as we tick over to 22 minutes gone in the race for him to hold off. That's essentially half of the race, isn't it, to hold off Eduardo Pecorini, who was 1.4 seconds faster in qualifying than anyone else in this field. The question is, can Bobby Ross use the race pace? Not with this slipstream. The BMW absolutely prolific in a straight line is going to go to the inside, down into the chicane here at Watkins Glen. Down the inside goes Eduardo Pecorini, and it is going to be difficult for Bobby Ross, so difficult that now he finds himself trailing.
Very clean move from Eduardo Pecorini to take the lead of this race back, but Eduardo had a bit of a wide line through the carousel there. Bobby Ross able to close back up. I definitely do think this Mercedes has a lot of speed earlier on in this race before the pit stops. Bobby could have been pushing because it was his in-lap, but he was closing that gap up to Eduardo Pecorini slowly but surely. So I think he could potentially do the same thing if he just really tries his heart out behind the wheel of that Mercedes. But Grant Turner a little bit wide there, maybe a bit of a diamond line through the face, or what I'm going to call the face of the boot, the first corner of the boot, as Paul Mikolajczyk tries to close this gap to take back the lead of the GT4 class.
Turner is going to be struggling to stay ahead of Paul Mikolajczyk here. You know which one is faster. It's Paul Mikolajczyk, as you can see there, through the mini sectors. 6 times faster through sector 3. Those aren't mini sectors, actually. Those are traditional sectors. Of course, there was a mistake from Turner that we just saw, so that maybe have something to do with it. Although I believe that's on the previous lap, so Turner just not as fast as Paul Mikolajczyk. It's as simple as that. The frustrating thing, however, for Paul Mikolajczyk will be that despite the fact he's taken the championship lead today, and he will take the championship lead unless something pretty incredible happens with Robert Schwenkler. You can see there, purple in Sector 2, really pushing to try and get the lead of this race back. He is not gaining as many points on Robert Schwenkler as he first anticipated. Bobby Ross, by the way, being attacked by Eddie Aguiar. Ross backed into second position.
Yeah, I thought Aguiar had taken that spot for a little bit, but Bobby Ross grabs it right back from him as Eduardo Pecorini continues to pull away. Here's the move from Bobby Ross, got to the outside of him into turn number 1. And I actually think this is when Eddie Aguiar passed him, excuse me. And then Bobby tried to get him back. Looks like got a good run off the corner. Used that slipstream up through the S's and made the move back around. We'll see the replay of it as they head up the hill once again. Looks like Bobby just trying to save the momentum. Gets to the inside to the final part of the S's and makes it stick down the straightaway and takes that spot back into the bus stop. But the whole time, Eduardo Pecorini continues to slip away.
It is, and the battling isn't helping either of them here. They need to work together and they need to knuckle down to get back ahead of Eduardo Pecorini, which is not going to be easy at all as we're so far into this race already that the time is really running out for them.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to see what they can do because, I mean, pit stops really shook that up. I mean, Pecorini was out by a good second, and the pit stops, I'm not sure if it was just better traffic circumstances for Ross, but it just brought Ross right back in front of Eduardo Pecorini and Eddie Aguiar as well. I'm going to mention to Adam real fast, we're currently still sitting on a replay mode if you're trying to figure that out on your end, Adam. But so it looks like here we go back to live. There it is. And Bobby Ross, actually, now that I look at the timing tower again, he's not only maintaining the gap, but just like last time, he's starting to close it ever so slightly, little by little. Bobby Ross is starting to close the gap up to Eduardo Pecorini. It was a second about probably a lap and a half ago. Now it's down to about 0.7 of a second. So Bobby Ross definitely has the speed in that Mercedes to win here tonight.
So I have a hypothesis, Alex, as Eddie Aguiar trying to affect that little theory. But my hypothesis is that Bobby Ross here, so he's about 2,000, actually probably about 3,000 iRating behind Eduardo Pecorini, 4.9k Eduardo Pecorini sitting on, which means that according to iRacing, theoretically Eduardo Pecorini, as we know, is faster than Bobby Ross. My theory here would be that Bobby Ross is faster in the toe in the wake of Eduardo Pecorini purely because he's able to sort of use him as a buffer to push that little bit extra. You can sometimes find it, say for instance you're go-karting in real life and you sit behind a faster driver for quite a while, you can gain lap time, but then the second you go back into clean air, you're sort of like a deer in the headlights, and I think that might be a phenomenon that's affecting Bobby Ross here.
Well, real fast, there's a bit of a battle for the GT4 lead as Paul Mikolajczyk hot on the heels of Grant Turner. It looked like he almost tried to move in the heel of the boot, but couldn't get it done. Grant Turner still holds on to this lead, but Paul Mikolajczyk still right on the back bumper. He'll try to get to the inside now. Turner blocks back to the outside across the start-finish line. Paul Mikolajczyk definitely has the more speed in that McLaren. Sends it deep into that corner. Grant Turner gets a better drive off. They're still side by side as they head up the S's. Paul Mikolajczyk clear into the lead now, but Grant Turner is going to have this draft run up through the S's and down this back straightaway. We have to see if he does anything with it. Right on the back bumper of that McLaren. Wheel to wheel, both of these cars going to war. To the outside comes Grant Turner down the back straightaway. We'll have to see what he does with this as they break into the bus stop. Looks like he's going to let Mikolajczyk have it for now.
And he gets the move. Does Paul Mikolajczyk? Oh, no, he doesn't. Oh, he's into the wall. And it's the most horrific of commentator curses in the history. And Paul Mikolajczyk sees Robert Schwenkler sail on through gratefully no bonnets, going to the pits for a fast repair or a repair of some description is Paul Mikolajczyk, and the championship lead, well, it's going to dissolve from his thoughts here.
I just had to pick my jaw up real quick off the floor. Wow. I apologize. That was one of the worst commentator's curses I've ever done, but oh my God. Looks like Mikolajczyk sent it in there. You could just tell from the way he was on the brakes, he sent it in there too hard, clips the grass on the exit, the car gets squirrely on him, and he just overcorrects straight into the guardrail. That might be the most insane thing I've ever seen in this series. And Bobby Ross is challenging Eduardo Pecorini for the lead, so this has been an insane race here tonight as Bobby Ross continues to not only maintain this gap, but continue to close it through the boot on lap 17 of this race.
Not to be smug, Alex, but what did I say on the grid about races with few people being the most entertaining? This is that personified, really. It is absolutely superb as Aguiar down the inside onto Bobby Ross he goes. The Bobby Ross trying to hold on to that position in the number 31, is number 33 I should say, is able to just about hold on to it, Bobby Ross, and gratefully so. If there is a slight technical issue on the stream in a moment, we apologise. Adam Thompson, our production man, our producer this evening, is having a couple of issues with his computer, so we're trying to get those troubleshooted in the background as we watch this incredible race still rage on, with Aguiar now looking very threatening there. But if there is an issue, my point is, on the stream, then you know why. We're trying our best to get them all fixed.
And there's Paul out of the pits. Looks like still technical difficulties on the production side of things. Here's Paul Mikolajczyk heading up to the S's after those repairs. Now the main story for the GT4 class becomes, can Robert Schwenkler close the gap to Grant Turner and get around him? We know how fast Schwenkler is here, and here you'll see the sector times. Schwenkler closing them down bit by bit. Lost really just 0.003 of a second in Sector 3. That's not going to affect him at all. So Schwenkler closing this gap ever so slightly. He has 14 minutes to get back up to Grant Turner. With how crazy this race has been, Tom, do you think he can do it?
Well, I have to say, perhaps not, as Rob Neville, out of absolutely nowhere, is being listed as... Oh, that's the relative, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Grant Turner into the pits. Robert Schwenkler continues on. 15 minutes to go in this race. Dare I say it, that is anticipated. We expected that from the GT4 cars to make the 2 stops in this race. So we're just going to have to now wait until Robert Schwenkler does the same thing. And the question is now, do you take some tyres? Do you just leave it, take a splash and dash now for the last 15 minutes in this race? What do you do?
We have to see what the GT3 cars do as well. Looks like Eddie Aguiar into the pits here, but Bobby Ross elects to stay out one more time as he closes that gap down the front straightaway. It's up to 1.5 seconds now, as pretty much the entire GT3 field, save for Bobby Ross and Eduardo Pecorini, into the pits. Aguiar, Seep, and Cantera all heading in. Grant Turner just completed his pit stop, so Jerry DiPiero and Robert Schwenkler have gotten by. We'll have to see what Schwenkler does on the pit lane to try and make up some time here to try and challenge for the lead. Jerry DiPiero, a bit of right front damage there on that BMW. Or it looks like that was from James Keir, I do believe, from the incident earlier. So, bit of right front damage to that BMW, but still doing a pretty good job behind the wheel, managing that race car. Chad Seep out of the pits now. Kerry Cantero will be out of the pits soon as well, I do believe. Kerry Cantero is still just stationary in his pit stall, but Robert Schwenkler is now going to head out of the boot. And Tom, what do you reckon he does? Does he pit this time, or does he try and make it last? Oh, Chad Seep, excuse me, sorry.
So he's not going to be able to get to the end of this race. I think we know that much. The question here for Robert Schwenkler is, does he feel that he's gaining time on the guys behind him, as he obviously, if he isn't planning to take tyres, then he's at the lightest he's going to be. He's theoretically at the fastest he's going to be. So that's got to be one of the things on his mind. If he feels that the pace is there, then extend as long as you can. Of course, here you can see the pace is certainly there. 1.5 seconds on lap 13, 6 tenths of a second, lap 16, 7 tenths of a second, lap 18. Schwenkler absolutely biting in to Di Piero's lap times. The question is, can he gain the 5 seconds he needs? As I said, if he can go on and he's at the lightest, he's not going to be taking tyres, then obviously continue on.
Schwenkler, fastest time in the GT4s by about a tenth there, so a lot of speed in that McLaren. We'll just have to see when he pits, but Bobby Ross into the pits, and actually I want to touch on something that I noticed. Before he came into the pits, the gap between him and Eduardo Pecorini had been about 5.5 seconds, so I think Bobby Ross might have made a mistake on his in-lap that allowed Eduardo Pecorini to pull away a little bit. And it's most certainly going to be a mistake because Eddie Aguiar now 4.5 seconds ahead of him. So Bobby Ross must have had a major mistake on his in-lap that costed him seconds. And seconds are all that matter with 10 minutes left in this race.
10 minutes all of a sudden creeping up on us. It's been a race that has been so entertaining so far. Eduardo Pecorini, of course, controlling it as we stand. But now, all of a sudden, we go from the tactical side of things to having to just push like hell to the end of this race.
Yeah, and I mean, we really just see, it looks like Schwenkler, he's into the pits this time, and Grant Turner is currently heading through the heel of the bus stop, heading towards the off-camber corner to exit the bus stop. So here's the camera to see what happens. I think we'll be able to see Jerry DiPiero head into the pits as well. Pecorini is also into the pits. So we'll be able to see the battle for GT4s and GT3s on pit lane 2 at once. So Grant Turner heading into the final corner now. Has Robert Schwenkler gotten a decent enough gap and saved enough fuel to be able to get out quickly? There's Grant Turner off the final corner, rocketing down the front straightaway. Pecorini just came to a stop in his stall. It looks like Turner is going to be able to get the lead of the GT4 class. Now in the background, you'll see the 31 car down the pit lane as well, but it looks like Pecorini is going to hold on to this lead right now as Eddie Aguiar just now breaking into turn number 1. But the chase is on. Schwenkler made up all the time he needed to on pit road. Now he just needs to make up a 1.5 seconds off of pit road or off of real race pace speed. I think he has the speed to do it, but this would be probably the most insane comeback story I've ever seen.
Disconnected and crashed as they formed up on the grid. He's managed to come back just about, stayed on the lead lap by the skin of his teeth. His job was made, of course, very easy indeed. Not very easy, but much easier by the huge crash earlier on in this race. But Robert Schwenkler now with an opportunity to get back up to Grant Turner and chase after the lead of this race. However, there's a little bit of another twist in the tail because Robert Schwenkler losing time out of the pits. Do we suggest that there's something gone on there with perhaps tyres, perhaps adjusting to the new fuel load that has meant that Robert Schwenkler is a little bit slower than he would have liked? Here's Paul Mikolajczyk trying to get around Di Piero. Back into third position, Mikolajczyk, who will feel that he deserved to win this race. He made that crash, it undid all of his hard work, and now Di Piero is that roadblock in between him and a consolatory podium.
Well, I reckon that Schwenkler's just probably adjusting, was probably just adjusting to the way the car's feeling. Oh, he's into the wall. He was closing that gap by a lot, but he hit the wall just then. But he's still really closing that gap at turn 1. Something happened to Grant Turner. That left front is absolutely destroyed. Schwenkler now to the lead. What can Turner do to try and take it back? Schwenkler continues to pull away. Something happened to Grant Turner. Something is broken on that Porsche.
think he's hit the wall, and that's why Robert Schwenkler hit the wall, because he's followed him into it, Alex. And here you can see, look at the crabbing, look at the bent steering on that Porsche. It's a very, very poorly raced car indeed. Grant Turner's going to have to drive on ice towards the end of this race. Look at how slow he's going already. 2.5 seconds Robert Schwenkler has gained on him. It's 7.2 seconds to Di Piero behind. Is he going to be able to hold on to this? Grant Turner, all of a sudden, in this race, and this is incredible, we've gone from Robert Schwenkler gaining no points on Paul Mikolajczyk to Paul Mikolajczyk all of a sudden in 4th position, not going to be gaining any points on Robert Schwenkler, to now, it looks like they might be 1-2 again.
I am absolutely speechless. I'm going to see if we can try and find a spot to see what happened to Grant Turner, but toe of the boot has gotten around Jerry Di Piero for second in class. So still, we're trying to figure this out a little bit. I think we have figured it out going through the field here, currently on Paul Mikolajczyk once again. So I think Adam has figured things out on his end just in time for the end of the race, if I am not mistaken.
Well, welcome back on the YouTube feed to everyone who is watching. We apologise for the dropout. Adam Thompson on the production has had a couple of issues. We've got a minute until the end of this race, so you join us just for the white flag here at XTC. In the absence of the stream, Paul Mikolajczyk was able to get past Di Piero, who actually has had a major issue that we missed. And is now 12 seconds behind the second place man. I believe we saw Robert Schwenkler go to the lead of the race, but as we head to this white flag lap back on the stream, technical issues have been sorted. Edoardo Pecorini leading the way by 10 seconds in GT3, Robert Schwenkler leading by 10 seconds in GT4.
Yeah, and Edoardo Pecorini, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on the white flag. I think I could be wrong about that. Tom, correct me if I am wrong. But through the final couple of corners, Edoardo Pecorini, he had to work for this one, which isn't something we've seen very often in this series. But it was a show tonight from the XTC. From the Cross Touring Cup, as Edoardo Pecorini is going to come across the final corner to take the white flag. Eddie Aguiar is going to follow suit as he heads to the final corner. One more lap to reflect and think about just what an absolute amazing race this was from just everybody involved. This race was absolutely insane.
Well, it's not over yet, Alex. The way this race is going, it could have a few more issues so far. I thought that was going to be the white flag lap, but Edoardo Pecorini didn't lift off when he had the opportunity to make it the checkered flag, which is frustrating, though I'm not too sure if iRacing does the plus one lap here. And another thing I've been asked to apologise for is the lack of car sound here. Unfortunately, everything has come crumbling down on the technical side of things. iRacing just basically dying at this stage, but someone who isn't dying is Edoardo Pecorini's championship hopes. In fact, I'd say they're about as live as ever, and that may be the worst segue back to the action I've ever delivered. But Pecorini.
Hey, it's okay. I've mispronounced probably half the words I've tried to say on this stream, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. I probably made a bit more mistakes than you have so far, but Edoardo Pecorini out of the boot. It was a win, and it was a fantastic race for Edoardo Pecorini, but he certainly had to work for it. With the utmost respect, deserves this win. Out of the final corner comes Edoardo Pecorini, and once again, he'll win in the Cross Touring Cup from Watkins Glen International. Eddie Aguiar, great uphill battle, was involved in so many different types of racing throughout this race. He'll come home to take second. Bobby Ross out of the final corner as well, gonna scoop up a podium once again. Chad Sipe here as well. I apologize for getting that wrong throughout the entire race. He's going to pick up P4, brings it down to the wall, a bit of swerving action, across the line to finish P4. And Kerry Cantera who we thought at one point was probably going to win this race. Unfortunately, through the final corners, going to take last in the GT3 cars, but nothing to be ashamed of behind the wheel of that Mercedes. It was a fantastic race from him.
Fantastic race from all involved, I think, here, Alex, and I think the star of the show overall has got to be that man, Robert Schwenkler, in first position in GT4. Here he is crossing the line, flashes of the lights. It's a recovery drive to remember. Perfect from Robert Schwenkler.
Absolutely insane from Robert Schwenkler. At one point, we weren't even sure he was going to be racing tonight, and he ended up winning. So that just goes to show you, in just one sentence, how crazy this race was. Paul Michalic comes home to scoop up second place. Great recovery from him after the incident he had coming out of the bus stop racing this man for the lead. Grant Turner, great race from him all day long. Ends up with a nice and well-earned podium across the line. And another car you'll see ready to cross the line soon. Through the final corner he comes now. Glenn McTavish, a quiet race from him in the number 71. Oh, wow. Bit of fun post-race from Grant Turner. Floors it straight into the tire barrier. I know I've done that before. Trust me, it's a lot of fun. But Glenn McTavish across the line in his Aston Martin. We'll see. Does he floor it? No, he's going to slow down, preserve that car. Doesn't want to cost the team about $250,000 in damages. But here's your race results. Tom, why don't you take us through them?
And so, leading the way in GT4 is... we'll go to GT3 first. Never mind. The word's gone from my mind. Spontaneous over here. Edoardo Pecorini wins a dominant performance in GT3. He did make it difficult for himself, with all fairness to Edoardo Pecorini. But, he was just having a little bit of fun, wasn't he? Eddie Aguiar finishes in second position for Consistency Racing Team, just about beating out Bobby Ross in the end. Chad Seep finishes in fourth position, with Kerry Cantera rather collapsing, I think is the word, down into fifth. He just unfortunately seemed to dissolve through the order there, did poor old Kerry Cantera. Robert Schwenkler wins one of the most spectacular drives I've ever seen in the GT4 category. Started from the pit lane and then wins the race by 9.5 seconds. It was certainly an attritional affair, but it was one that Robert Schwenkler will remember for a very long time, that's for certain. Paul Michalic finishes in second position after all of that. Grant Turner finishes in third, with Glenn McTavish in fourth, and then Jerry Di Piero and Rob Neville, the last of the finishers. Jimmy Howard and James Keir, both in those major incidents earlier on in the race.
Oh, excuse me. I had my mic muted. I forgot just a tad. So it looks like we're going to get interviews underway, if I'm not mistaken. So, the first person that I want to grab, Edoardo Pecorini, if I can drag him in. And a little bit of a lag issues on my Discord. There he is. Eduardo, it was another win for you, but you certainly had to work for it. How was that race out there?
Hi, Alex. Yeah, man, this was really fun. I completely lost the start, and Bobby and I think Kerry did a great job at the start. I had to be careful. The race is long, so I went into the first corner just trying to be alive after it. So I was trying to save gas and keep up with them, and I managed to save a lap of fuel additional from them, and everything turned out great at the end. But it was really fun, great racing. The guys are so clean, and as you could see, and we were having a blast there.
Yeah, and I saw you do this a couple of times in the bus stop. You ended up going wide on exit. Was that just a product of just you're trying to push so hard with everybody else in the race that you just end up making some slight mistakes here and there?
Yeah, it was mistakes, but the setup for the BMW here, it's a little too low, and when you hit that curb, sometimes the car just bottoms out and it sends you straight. So you just have to let it be straight and don't spin in the grass and take the slowdown. So it happened twice, but I was lucky to keep it straight and recover. It was really fun, man.
It looked like a lot of fun. It was a great race from us up here in the booth. So before we let you go, anybody you want to thank here live?
Sure, always the Risa guys that are always keeping track of us. You guys for doing this great job, and obviously XTC for organizing this and being so professional every time. So a big thanks for everyone.
All right, well, congrats on the win once again. Well-deserved, fantastic race from yourself. Hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks' time from the next race for the Cross Touring Cup.
See you there, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks to you for putting on a great race. And looks like next, Tom, who have you managed to grab for us to speak to post-race?
Well, YouTube viewers, he's lying to you. He dragged Robert Schwenkler into the box, but the metaphor works.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I didn't even mean to do that. I was lagging.
Robert, welcome to the commentary box. It was an incredible performance from you. You started from the pit lane, and then everyone thought you were out of it. And then all of a sudden, you're back through, chasing after the lead of the race, and managed to get it in the end. Albeit there was a bit of good luck involved, but I mean, you've not exactly won to have had good luck so far this season. So I guess it was much needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like I'm cursed with this league because it seems like every time I sit down to start a race, something happens. My power goes out. Today I hit grid and iRacing decided it wanted to crash. So I was just happy I could get back in it before they actually got started. But yeah, I was pushing. I was trying to catch back up to those guys, get through the back of the field. I had to check up there. I think there was a pretty bad crash with here, and I think Howitt and Jerry. Yeah, I don't know who all was involved, but I thought I was going to get creamed from that. So after that, I was just trying to chase those guys down and yeah, just set fast laps and try to eat away at their gap. But like you said, I'm not exactly sure what happened. I was behind that situation with Grant when he smacked the wall pretty good, so I'm not sure what happened, but it's unfortunate because I was ready to race him for the win.
Hey,
so,
Rob, Adam Thompson here in
I'll
the
take
production booth, man. Just wanted to let you know that we watched that incident, and I don't think we've ever seen a Porsche fly as high or as fast as whatever Porsche went flying over the top of James Keir's McLaren. That was a match that I don't know if I've ever seen and probably never will see again. Somebody definitely needs a NASA award or something. I do believe that was Grant Turner that went flying, man. But yeah, your avoidance there, I don't know if you heard it in your crew chief or what, but you about became part of that. So good job on missing all of that.
Well, I tell you, I saw the smoke and I knew something was going on, and I thought I'll just power through it. And then I saw him careen across the track, and I was like, nope. I just checked up and waited for him to get stopped. So I was like, I can deal with taking the loss. So, but anyway, yeah, good race. Glad we had a decent turnout, and hope it was fun to watch for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It was an awesome race to watch. Tom, I'll let you have him back.
Well, just one final question before we let you go, Rob. Championship now is absolutely hotting up. You and Mikolajczyk trading blow for blow. Of course, back in your favour today as we head into the next couple of rounds. How are you approaching what is such a closely fought battle?
I think I'm just going to keep attacking it like I have been. I just been trying to get a decent amount of seat time and looking at my telemetry to figure out the places I need to work on. I think that's what saved me for this race. When I started doing laps at the Glen here, I was not doing well in those middle sectors, but I just kept plugging away and finally found the time. So yeah, just gonna tackle the rest of it like that and see how it turns out. I'm looking forward to Spa. I'm pretty good with that track. VAR. I don't know. And I think the 90-minute race is gonna be a free for all. I think it's gonna be up for grabs. So looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Rob, and speak to you soon.
Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
With Robert Schwenkler, owner of the league and winner in GT4. Well, Alex, we'll round out this stream. It was one of the most entertaining XTC races I've watched, and can't wait for 2 weeks' time now.
Most certainly. I really want to see what happens at Spa, because that is going to be a track that has a lot more draft incorporated into it. So if you don't have any more final thoughts, I'll round out the stream for us. So, upcoming broadcasts tomorrow night. We do have AMS, or the SBO Network's American Muscle Series, and WSRL. AMS is going to be at Mid-Ohio. Going to be an interesting race in those Mustangs. And then for WSRL, if I can find the schedule real fast, it's going to be Road Atlanta. The race is going to start at 9, so you're definitely going to want to tune in to that. Then this Thursday, Spec 5 returns once again. And it's going to be from Watkins Glen, just like we were at tonight in those Miatas. It's going to be an interesting race. It's always great when they go to that track. And then this Sunday, the XSLR Championship returns with the 2008 Chevrolet Silverado NASCAR trucks at 2008 Charlotte Motor Speedway, the legacy version, the first mile and a half or the final oval race for them, the first mile and a half. Gonna be an interesting race. I'm excited for that one personally, but that is going to do it for us. My name is Alex Andersen. I have been joined in the commentary booth by Tom at Dillon. Thank you for doing your best here tonight. Adam Thompson struggled through the difficulties, but thank you for being in our virtual production truck. And from the Cross Touring Cup from Watkins Glen International, we'll see you next time.